happening, and I'm not supposed to let the repo, I'm guessing. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good evening, Mr. Jones.
Do you want me to use
Hi, that was what came to me. The guy that stands out under the wing and keeps, make sure that you're not veering too far off to one side or the other. He didn't have any cones in his hand, though. Or those flashlight whatevers. So what are all the cars in the parking lot for? Because they aren't all here.
I wondered the same thing.
I did a triple check on what's on the agenda today. There's no pinnings. There's no.
I was spending so much time thinking about the technology. I'm like,
Are you responsible for all those folks?
yeah.
I want to hear the finance report.
Well, I was going to say money is what gets people motivated, and she's the guardian of the money.
I'll
So.
wait outside for that part of the agenda to come in off one minute.
And now, Ms. Kinswater is about to.
Done. Just give me the paper back. And then we got to the meeting and I'm like, I'm like, Kevin.
Yeah, it is.
It's not even a question anymore. So I
okay.
went back, I asked her just right now.
A little bit of laughter can be good.
But I actually want the bigger one that's got like all the dates on it. Because I finally need to figure that out.
Yeah, but the clock was wrong. The clock is off by 3 minutes.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please note those in attendance?
All will be noted.
Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2A, minutes of the regular city council meeting from October 10th. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 2B, minutes of the city council work session on October 10th. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Item 2C, minutes of the special city council meeting on October 17th. To entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
A motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2D, minutes of the city council work session on October 17th. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Yes.
There's abstention on all four of those.
Abstention noted for all four of those. Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any corrections or amendments? I know we're going to add item 4E as the settlement agreement for the lake level litigation, so I have that. Was there any other amendments to the agenda? Councilmember Walsh.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move 4D off consent. I guess it would be go to 8A, new business, just so we can have just a short conversation about it.
All right, so item 4D, which is resolution approving edible cannabinoid products licenses for multiple edible businesses, will become item 8A under new business. Any other corrections or changes? Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was unclear as to your suggestion for the lake litigation item. Is that on for action? Is it where you putting it?
To clarify, I was proposing to add that to item 4E on the consent agenda.
Oh, I've not even seen the memo yet, so I would prefer that we not put it under consent. Unless, I see it here. Is this the same thing we've seen before?
Yes.
I'd still think we should have a different, have it pulled and under discussion.
Does council have a recommendation one way or the other as to where it would be most appropriate on the agenda?
I would favor keeping it on the consent agenda.
Does council have an opinion on this?
So, Mr. Mayor and council, the typical practice is if a council member wants something withdrawn from the consent agenda, they can, and then typically that it goes on under new business. Usually the first thing under new business, but we've already had one item pulled off, and so it would become second item under new business. Keeping in mind, though, that if this happens, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Mayor, giving me an opportunity to speak a little bit before we get into the the meat of that one?
Sure. Okay, we will add the settlement agreement for the lake level litigation to item 8B as new business. Are there any other additions, corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we haven't. One opposition, motion carries. We have an agenda. Item 4, consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is adopted. Item 5A, Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission check-in and 2024 budget. Ms. Crawford, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So tonight you will receive a presentation from our representative, John Johnston, Eric Strauss, Cindy Arco, and Mary Klein from SCC, who are here just to give a check-in. In your packet is their 2024 budget as well as their 2022 financial audit and annual report. So I will turn over to Mr. Johnston.
I'm John Johnston. I'm your representative to the Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission. I'd like to thank you for blowing through by me in a consent agenda about a year ago and appointing me. So I believe I was the only
Happy to
one
do it.
that applied. So I did have some experience in another town and another life. So it's been a pleasure working with this group. They've got some exciting things to share, some changes, as you know, over the last year and a half to 2 years in the Cable Commission, and we're getting better. So today we've got Cindy Arco, who's going to present first. She's a business manager. She's responsible for subscriber complaints and daily admin tasks, as well as overseeing the day-to-day operations. We've got Eric Strauss. He's our transition consultant, and he's helping the commission with the operational direction and then the technology updates. And then Mary Klein, those of you that have actually watched the channel see a lot of Mary. She's a production and content manager, and she develops a lot of productions for FCC member cities, including meeting with city staff, shooting, writing, editing, and distributing content. So like I said, they've got some normal updates to share with you and then a couple of exciting things. So, Cindy?
Thank you, John, and thank you all for inviting us to share some background information on who we are and what we do, along with some exciting updates. We are from the Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission, which operates give me a minute. We are from the Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission, which operates SCC, Suburban Community Channels, providing community media for our member municipalities. My name is Cindy Arco, like John introduced, and I am the business manager. The Cable Commission started in 1981. Cable television first arrived in 1983, and Comcast has been the cable operator since 2002. The Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission is in a joint powers agreement with 9 municipalities. Here's a list in order of the cable revenues received, which also determines weighted voting. Oakdale and White Bear Lake are the 2 largest member cities, followed by Lake Elmo, White Bear Township, Matamidi, Grant, Delwood, Birchwood, and Willerny. The Cable Commission works as an advocate for cable customers and helps with cable complaints. Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission is funded by 5% franchise fees and 2.75% PEG fees paid by cable subscribers in the member cities. PEG stands for Public Educational Government. Our PEG station operates here in White Bear Lake. The commission leases the building on County Road F in Bel Air, and we lease it from White Bear Lake. I said that already. We are a small staff of 7 employees, business manager, production and content manager, a multimedia journalist, which we are in the process of hiring. This position will be responsible for assisting the production and content manager with city productions. We also have a mobile production coordinator who is responsible for scheduling and coordinating the production truck for all member cities. We have a sports producer who schedules, produces, and broadcasts high school sporting events. A master control operator who programs and operates the master control system and monitors the video and audio quality for all members. And a part-time AV and IT technician. Also, we contract with freelancers to help with remote productions like concerts, parades, and sports. We have some new and exciting things happening at SEC. We are in the process of downsizing our building space to accommodate our smaller staff to a third of the size we currently operate in. Construction will begin this year. Staff are able to office where they are currently while the area is being remodeled and then move into the new space upon completion. We're redesigning SCC's website to improve functionality. The new improved website will be a resource for cable subscribers and better serve our member municipalities. And last but not least, the commission approved a new production van. This will replace the current production truck that is 21 years old and still operates in SD. The new production van will be in HD and is expected to be here by the end of November. And with that, I will introduce Eric Strauss, our transition consultant.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, council and city staff, for inviting us again. As Cindy mentioned, the SEC staff is excited and looking forward to the new production van. This is similar to what we'll be receiving, hopefully, like I said, near the end of November, as Cindy has mentioned. One of the other notes on the van is that the new vehicle is budgeted with equipment at about 30% less than the original truck they looked at purchasing back in 2019. So even with cost increases and things like that, we still got a good value for the purchase. SEC TV, this TV station houses all the IT and terminal equipment necessary for routing live and scheduled programs on cable TV. It includes recording of programs, scheduling slides between programs, servers for streaming each channel, including all the city channels, a video on demand server for all city and community channels, and SEC works behind the scenes with the cable provider and Metro INET to get the city's live programs, like our council meeting tonight, back to the station hub and then out on the cables franchise system in White Bear Lake. So SCC manages all this behind the scenes and always has staff on duty for live city meetings to work with city cablecasters and ensure quality signals and recordings. The current 10-year cable franchise was adopted and took effect on April 1st, 2021. The prior franchise was actually one of the best in the country. I've seen a lot of franchises. That was one of the best, and for two main reasons. PEG fees are normally restricted to be used for PEG-related capital equipment purchases, and in that prior franchise, there was a special exception made where it was allowed to be used as an operating grant. They don't do that anymore, and so that was a big adjustment with the new franchise. So that was a big change. The second reason that the prior franchise was special was that the PEG fee that was negotiated was also one of the highest in the country to help with the operating and equipment needs of SEC and the cities, member cities. The new franchise is still very good and has one of the highest PEG fees still in the state of Minnesota. Due to these franchise changes, along with ongoing reduction in cable subscribers, which we call cord cutting, it means there's less available funding for SEC operations and for our member cities. Just a little note, the change in the cable subscribers. This is White Bear Lake. Since 2015, there's been a drop in cable subscription, about 40% to today. So we're aware of that, seeing the decline in PEG funding. In 2021, the Cable Commission made the difficult decision to eliminate 3 staff positions at SEC and not replace 2 additional staff positions when they opened. And we also trimmed operating costs wherever possible. This reduced the 2022 operating budget by more than 40%, and the Commission has continued this direction of cost savings through the smaller staff size while offering quality local programming for all our cities and our residents. Another thing I wanted to mention is our municipal grant capital funding. The current grant program began in 2014 and was set to expire in 2019. Each member city received $115,000 plus a weighted distribution of unused funds from a prior grant program. The funds were restricted for production equipment for city meetings. That deadline has been extended many times for some of the member cities. Were finishing up projects and things like that and needed a little more time. I'm happy to say that is finally expiring at the end of this month. So then we'll be able to look at, the Commission will be able to look at a new infusion of capital funds from those PEG franchise fees for all our member cities. Also included with the grant, it's important to note, SEC staff gave an equipment list, like a most favored equipment list, so that cities have very similar equipment, so that cablecasters could go from one city to the other when needed. Plus, also, if there's an issue, it's easier for our technical staff to assist in any repair problems or troubleshooting. The 2024 Commission budget, as was mentioned, is in the council packet, along with the 2024 audit. As far as the audit, I don't really have a lot on the audit. Cindy does a great job keeping the books for the auditors. Since I've been helping, I've had nothing but great reports from the auditors. And as far as the budget, it has remained fairly similar since 2022 when it was reduced to help address the funding changes that I discussed earlier. We did add a column, an additional column in that far right side that's a 2023 actual, which really I think helps to see the comparison on where we're at that time in our budget. We do anticipate about a 2% decrease in cable revenues for next year. And another important budget note on how we do the budget for like staff salaries, that's usually one of the bigger items, and wages. They are tied through our bylaws that they're tied to all our weighted member city increases. So for 2023, it was 2.64%. So you can see a lot of numbers going down, things like that. And a lot of that due to the cable revenues, decreasing cable revenues for member cities, the cord cutting, the decline in cable subscribers, and that's happening nationwide. Technology is also at a point where you can watch cable-style TV through the internet, which we call over the top. The cable franchise is a great thing that protects our city residents with build-out service requirements while reimbursing cities for the use of their right-of-way. There is currently no franchise fees on internet providers, so our cable provider there is no fees on the internet side of that, but I was going to share, kind of ending my part on more of a positive side. There are several legislative efforts at the state level that would adjust for the new technology and what we call modernization of the funding model of cable television. And once a bill is ready into the next session, we'll make sure we share that with all our member cities, hopefully get support. As you can see, kind of the trend that we really need to modernize PEG funding for our groups. So on that little bit more positive note, I'll turn it over to Mary Klein, our SEC production and content manager, that has more fun stuff.
Oh boy, now I know what my interview subjects feel like. It's hot under these camera lights. I've got some empathy. Well, good evening. Again, I'm Mary Klein, the production and content manager for SCC. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I've been with SCC for a long time. In fact, I was reflecting upon it, and I realized that since I've been with SCC, I've had 3 dogs, I've moved 4 times, I've gone through 5 vehicles, and I'm not even going to get into relationships. But I have truly grown up in this organization, and I've watched the city of White Bear Lake grow and evolve over the years too. But what has always remained constant, in my opinion, is this great working relationship. I mean, for me, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with White Bear Lake city officials, city staff, the residents. It's just been such an enjoyment. So it's a partnership that I hope will continue for years. I'm going to show a video in a moment. Oops. But first, I just wanted to make a distinction between our 2 channels. So we've got channel 16, which is our government channel. That's where you'll find your city council meetings and all the stories related to all the events that we cover for White Bear Lake throughout the year. So to date, 16 has produced 46 videos for the city of White Bear Lake. That is not including city council meetings. Now we have channel 19, which is our community channel. So anywhere you see our truck, that's where you'll find that content. Market Fest, high school sports, parades. So to date, 19 has produced 39 videos for White Bear Lake. So total 85 videos so far have been produced for White Bear Lake, exclusive to White Bear Lake. To put it into context, we've produced 164 videos for all of our member cities. So more than half of our production content is for White Bear Lake. And I'm going to keep clicking because we found out it's going to take a lot of clicks to get to my video.
Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to the first edition of Lake Area Beat.
I'm Kurt Friesen.
I'm Tracy Minarchuk, and this is Lake Area Beat.
For White Bear Lake for a touchdown will be number 21, Levi Arvig.
We've got the mayor over here. We've got city council members. Yeah, I think we have the entire group.
We want to hear from you. I love when people email and call me with story ideas. That's what we're here for. We want feedback, good and bad, hopefully good. But here's our contact information. Please reach out to us. Like I said, we want to continue this partnership and to see it grow and evolve. And I thank you for your support and for your time. And if you have questions.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you just for presenting and giving us a good snapshot of what you guys do day in and day out. We only see the final production, so it's nice to see staff and kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff that it takes. I'll just compliment you on all the local videos that kind of make White Bear special and the surrounding community. It helps kind of tie us all together and gives us a chance to kind of see what's going on that we otherwise wouldn't. So I thank you for that, and thank you for the presentation. And with that, if council has any questions or comments, please. Councilmember Edberg.
As we look at emerging technologies, or as we see what other communities are doing, whether it's part of SEC or communities outside of our coalition, are there things that we are not doing that we might want to think about? Are there emerging opportunities, programmatic or thematic kinds of programs? What's out there that you, as one of our professionals, would encourage us to think about?
Well, that's where I think the feedback from residents and council, helps us so much, because it lets us know what you think of what we're doing and what direction we should be, looking towards. So I would open it up.
I'm going to throw that back at you. What are you seeing that we should be looking at?
Well, I do see an evolution just with the immediacy of technology. I've already started to format some of our content based upon that, meaning shorter, faster content. Even the production Lake Area Beat that we've been doing for 21 years, we've shortened a little bit, shorter clips. Just the brevity is where I see kind of the future of video going. In terms of technology, I don't know if I'm not the tech expert, I'm more the creative content. But does that help answer? Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to compliment SEC and Mary. You're the face, at least to me, have been for a long time. But it's what you have done for the city and what SEC has allowed. Because I think there has been some, I don't want to say bending the rules, but favoritism, I'll say that, because, we're White Bear. But we definitely really stepping in towards not only the city, but the arts, the nonprofits, the organizations that I've seen highlighted. And that, to me, I think is even more important than it really is. They don't have the ability to shine lights on themselves. And when you folks do that, it really helps. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again for the report. Do you have anything, Ms. Crawford?
Yeah, I just want to, the feeling's mutual, Mary. The staff loves working with you. All of our police, fire, myself, all of us. So thank you for what you do. We enjoy the partnership at the Normandy Center. So, and thank you to John for representing us so well.
And thank you again. And Councilmember Edberg, I will think about what you said. I'm a processor, so I think, and then I'd be happy to reach back out to you and start a conversation. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right, let's jump into item 5B, Finance Department Quarterly Report. Ms. Kinsvater, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight I'm here to give you our quarterly update for the third quarter of 2023 for the Finance Department and the License Bureau operations. In the City Council packet, there is both the summary of revenues and expenditures reports for your review. The reports contain notes. If there are any slight variances in the numbers, there wasn't anything significant that I need to point out past that. So just kind of a short notice there on the Finance Department. I guess the bigger part of my presentation is just updating you on the activities in the License Bureau. We have a very busy department, and you've been updated on that frequently. there are some exciting things that have been happening. In 2023, the Minnesota legislature approved immediate one-time direct financing or funding for deputy registrars based on their 2022 motor vehicle transactions. So as a result of that, in July, our department received $61,257. It was nice to get that revenue to help support our fund and our operations so that we can help our customers. The legislative session also increased the fees for some of our services, and that had been part of our legislative agenda that we had been hoping would happen. For the driver's license filing fees, when someone gets a renewal of their driver's license, instead of $8 for every transaction we process, as of October 1st, we now get $11. And for every new application, and a new application would also count as if someone had a standard driver's license and then changed to a real or enhanced ID license, that would be considered a new license too. We get an additional $8. Also, on October 1st, they increased the fees for the motor vehicle tab filing fees, so we get an extra $1 for every one of those. Though these fees aren't exactly what we had hoped for in our legislative funding, they are helping us cover our costs to be able to help the customers and process their transactions. One of the big things that has changed is in May, the city of Maplewood chose to close their deputy register office, and this has significantly impacted our operations. So I've been looking at kind of that Maplewood effect from May to the end of September, looking at our transaction levels that we had last year during that time and comparing them to this year. Our driver's license transactions are up 16%. Our tab renewals are up just under 7%. And our motor vehicle transactions are up 10%. So as we look forward, there are very busy times that happen with our department. I think now it's at a point this fall where it's there's constant. There are lines, they aren't as long. Summer is typically our really busy months. So as we look at the total number of customer transactions that have been handled by the department so far this year, well, through the end of September, we've processed 65,231 transactions compared to 60,797. So that is a number of customers that come through our door on a regular basis every day, and our staff is excited to help them. The dealership transactions are also increasing. That's a good revenue source for our office. It will be interesting to see if there's any changes in that now that there's the strike with the auto workers. But for 2023 through September, we've had 20,179 transactions, and in 2022 for that same period, we had 15,159. So we had high levels of those transactions before we had COVID. It dipped down through COVID, and now kind of we're rebounding, which is great because that's a good revenue source. As we have our customers who come in for their driver's license and tab renewals, but our other main customer are the vehicle sales that we process their transaction for here in White Bear Lake. So just a reminder for people who may be watching in the audience, they often wonder when is the best time to come in and visit so that they can try to avoid the lines. So on average, customers seem to wait 15 to 20 minutes in line. However, there are busier times, so if you come on a Monday or Friday, lines will typically be longer. If you come at the very end or the very beginning of the month, your lines will be longer. So midweek and mid-month are important keys to remember, and put a plug in for Tuesday evenings. We're open until 6 p.m. and typically the line starts to slow down about 4:30, 4:45. So from 5 to 6 p.m. is a great time to come visit.
Thank you for the report. Council, do we have any questions for Ms. Kinsvater? Berg.
Mayor. Ms. Kinsvater, I may not be looking at the numbers correctly, but I'm looking at the summary of revenues and expenses for 2023, year-to-date 2023. And it looks like we are running a slight negative or an excess of expenditures over revenues. If I'm looking at 23 million versus 22.9 million, it's not huge, but we're running a slight negative. However, we are seeing increases in customer accounts, increases in, effective October 1, increases in revenue per customer, and high levels of, increased levels of efficiency measured by transactions per hour. Do you have a projection for where we might end our fourth quarter and whether we are looking at net positive? I'm reflecting that several years ago, pre-pandemic, the License Bureau ended up generating sufficient funding that we were able to transfer 6 digits into to support other city operations. I'm kind of guessing we're not on that pathway at the moment, but are we ever moving toward that, or what's your best guess of where that might be going?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Edberg, that's a great question. Yes, in the past we did have revenues that we would be able to transfer out, and we would help with our pavement management programs for that. I don't see that happening now. I see us working towards, as of October 1st, we're gaining more revenues. We've had some change in our staffing model a bit. We've had, when some full-time vacancies have come open, we've hired part-time staff so that we can control our expenditures, but I see us more as breaking even as opposed to having those large balances that we can transfer out of the License Bureau.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Jones.
Just one quick observation with the License Bureau that to me is impressive is the overtime hours. With the increase from year-to-date, only 18 hours, which is .00 something. That's impressive and to the staff, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kinsvater, for your quarterly report. Let's jump into item 6A, certification of delinquent utility accounts, miscellaneous private party assessments. And I believe you're handling that too, Ms. Kinsvater?
I am. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight we're having public hearings for both our delinquent utility bills and for our nuisance miscellaneous property assessment charges. So first I'm going to give you a little background kind of on both. The city bills property owners on a quarterly basis. The payments for their utility bills are due 35 days later after they receive the bill. Each year we conduct a review of our accounts to find all accounts that have delinquent balances that are charges beyond 30 days. We look at active accounts through June 1st, and we look at finaled accounts where people have moved out of their properties through July 1st. We send notices to these property owners to let them know that there's a potential assessment of amounts that are delinquent on their account and that they would be assessed this year and collected on next year's property taxes. We provide information on their payment options so that they can avoid certification and the dates that they can make the payments through. We share information about the public hearing tonight where they can come and speak to the council regarding their accounts that are delinquent, or they can, if they can't make it to the meeting, they're allowed to write letters to the city council. So this year we sent 842 notices out to property owners. Since we sent them out in the beginning of September, approximately half of those accounts that received notices have made payments to bring their accounts current. So when people do call to discuss their delinquent bills, staff refers residents to Ramsey County if they're seeking help through any kind of programs that they might have to help them pay their bills. We also have a flyer that we put in the 3 fall bills, so we bill on a quarterly basis. So each of the fall bills will have a flyer in it that talks about energy assistance programs through the Community Action Program of Ramsey and Washington counties. And so those will be mailed out with the bills in early November, December, and January, so that the customers also have information that could help them. We post this information and these on the city's social media sites, so that if they don't see it in their bill, they might see it when they're perusing their social media. So the city will accept payments. We had initially, before we come to the council, we asked that their payments be made through last Friday, so that we could prepare the council memo to bring to you with the resolution. The city, however, continues to accept payments through the end of November. We don't need to send the certification notices in right away, so that you'll approve the resolution tonight, but the property owners can still make payments through November. Before we send in the information to Ramsey County, we make sure that those items have been taken off our list. I'm not sure if there is anybody that's registered to speak tonight at the public hearing, but there are 5 people who sent in letters requesting the council consider not assessing their delinquent utility bills to their property taxes. I've included those in your packets and given my recommendation on to whether you approve their request or deny it and keep it with the certification list. As we prepared the resolution for this year, last year the mayor had asked that we look through the resolution and work with the city attorney to update it to describe how we handle any of those requests. If the council does approve to remove one from the list. So the city attorney and I worked together to update that resolution to make sure that is appropriate. So in regards to this item, I'm asking that the council approve the attached resolution to certify any delinquent accounts as of the end of November to the appropriate county for the assessment of the 2024 property tax statements. And as we refer to just the appropriate county, because we do have those few homes that are in Washington County. So that's the part on the delinquent utility bills. A quick portion on the miscellaneous assessments. During the year, the city provides several property owners with services that we require reimbursement for. It would be like property maintenance, tree removal, lawn care, that code enforcement deems is necessary since the property owner isn't taking care of these tasks. And then we invoice those properties for the work that is done. A second type that is being added this year is police response to false security alarms. Police officers responding to security alarms make every effort to find a valid reason for why that alarm is going off. But if there is no valid reason, the police department tracks those responses and notifies property owners that a fee will be charged once they reach the 4th response and going forward, just because this is drawing our resources away from their duties. And so they're trying to have the property owners be sure that their security alarms are working and only going off when truly needed. So we haven't assessed this in past years. However, I was looking through ordinances and did find that our ordinance that was adopted in 2005 gives the city authority to assess the unpaid fees for this category. So I included them this year. Regards to both the property maintenance and these false security alarms, the city has billed the property owners for their services at the properties. As with the utility billing accounts, we've sent notices to property owners. We alerted them that the assessment was possible for these amounts that were due. We provided information on when they could make their payments, and shared information about the public hearing tonight if they would like to speak to the council about the delinquent amount. So in total, there are 5 invoices for 2 properties that remain unpaid. Both of them relate to the false security alarm responses. As with the delinquent utility bills, we will accept payments on these accounts through the end of November before certifying any unpaid balances to Ramsey County. So in this item, I am asking the council to approve the attached resolution to certify any delinquent accounts as of the end of November to the appropriate county for assessment for the 2024 property tax statements.
Thank you, Ms. Kinsvater. At this time, I will open it up to a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak to the issue of delinquent utility accounts. And I'll note that I do not have anyone on my sign-up sheet. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council. So a couple questions, Ms. Kinsvater. One, the resolution as written, I want to make sure I have this clear. Are you saying that it is certifying the delinquency to the county, but carving out those 5 that have reached out and tried to make arrangements with the city, or are they included?
They are included. Mr. Mayor, I included them. They're on the list. I'm recommending, based on information and reviewing their accounts and their requests, that we continue and include them on the list. So we wouldn't be taking anybody off the list. We'd be assessing the list as it is in the packet.
Okay. And then just to clarify, on the commercial side, the false alarms, we give folks about 4 screw-ups, if you will, and then at that point, then we begin assessing. And I mention it because I've had some experience with this. In my day job, alarm systems sometimes take some time to work out the bugs, but 4 is more than enough to kind of figure things out. And I note that because I'd be in favor of certifying those. You have to get your alarm system working properly, and if you can't, then shut your alarm off. I mean, that's just how it is. You're sucking up police resources and fire rescue resources for false alarms, and we think we've given them more than enough of a buffer at 4, so enough is enough. So I would support certifying that. As for the handful of people that have reached out, I mean, I would be amenable to making some exceptions because it is such a small amount of people. Here's where my head is. If the total list is so many, and for the handful of people that have taken the time to write a letter to the city saying, I'm falling on hard times, I want to work with the city, I want to formulate a plan, and for not a great deal of money in terms of the city's budget, I would be open to working with those folks, knowing that we're not foreclosing our ability to certify it the next year around if we needed to. So I would welcome a discussion on that if the council was so inclined. And with that, council, do we have any questions for Ms. Kinsvater? Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Kinsvater, can you remind me of our policy on what interest rate we charge on these collections? And do we have a consistent one across all such decisions, or where are we at on that? We didn't used to.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Edberg, you're correct. We did not have a similar interest rate in past years. However, this year, based on a comment that you had made, we made it consistent. So the interest rate that we use for our special assessments is 2% above the interest rate that the city received in its last bond sale. And so our last bond sale was 3.72%. The interest rate for these assessments is 5.72%.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Mayor, just a procedural question. Are we going to entertain 2 resolutions, one for the commercial, one for the home?
That's correct, yep.
Okay.
They're 2 separate resolutions.
Great, thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments from the council? Or would anyone like to make a motion to approve one of the 2 resolutions?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the certifying delinquent miscellaneous private property assessments, sans, with removing the 5 residential properties that accompanied our packet.
So I'll take that as a motion to amend the resolution as before us removing those 5, and then a motion, well, we'll just stop there. You would remove
There you
those
go.
5.
Yes.
A motion to amend the resolution as written to remove the 5 properties that have reached out to the city. Do I have a second on that? A motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
So, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just for clarification, was those 5 on the miscellaneous or were they on the utility?
Utility.
I believe the motion was on the miscellaneous resolution.
Sorry if I was reading it wrong.
Okay. So let me re-clarify. Councilmember Jones, was your motion to amend the applicable resolution as it pertains to residential homeowners to remove those 5 names that have reached out to the city, which I believe is the second resolution in our packet?
Yes.
Okay. And then, Councilmember Engstrand, would you be seconding that motion? Okay. Any further discussion on that? We good?
Just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, which resolution is before the council right now?
The resolution certifying delinquent charges related to the municipal utility system assessment for the city of White Bear Lake. That's correct? Okay. Any further discussion on that? Councilmember Hughes.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was looking through the packet that Ms. Kinsvater put together. I thought it was very comprehensive, and yeah, I'm not in favor of removing these 5 properties. If the people want to get up to date on their payments, they have up until the end of November to do it, and if not, it seems like in all 5 of the cases, these are frequent users of this system, and it sort of seems like, I'm not trying to speak for them, but it looks as if this is sort of something that they kind of count on every year. So I'm sure they don't, but you know, when we're talking about 7 of the last 10 years or 4 of the last 6 years, this isn't first time, second time, or even third time for some of these people. So I won't be supporting the amendment to the resolution.
All right. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of amending the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The resolution will be amended to remove those 5 names from the applicable resolution. All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution passes. We have the second resolution that is before us. That is the resolution certifying delinquent 2023 miscellaneous private property assessments for recovery of City of White Bear Lake expenses. I would entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That resolution is passed. All right. Thank you, Ms. Kinsvater.
Thank you.
All right, item 6B, final assessment roll for the 2022 South Shore Boulevard Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. Mr. Copy, whenever you're ready.
The council, I'm going to just run through just a quick background, just for recollection. Quick map from the city's last comp plan, just showing the last couple of areas that have existing on-site septic systems in lieu of city sanitary sewer. The area on the south side of White Bear Lake with the arrow is the area that is under this. This is accounts for roughly half of the remaining 25 or so systems that were still on septic as of the last comp plan. So this takes about 13 properties and moves them to the ability to have municipal sewer service. There's kind of the highlight of that area. So those are the 13 they're large acre parcels near the lake. So it's beneficial for the lake from a water quality standpoint, not having septic systems, that close to the lake, which ultimately leach into the lake. So a great benefit to the city to get these last remaining parcels off. So the improvements, we did it as part of the county's South Shore Boulevard Trail and Roadway Project. We extended about 750 feet of sanitary sewer. to get us the rest of the properties up to Bel Air onto that municipal sewer system. The total cost of the improvements were $170,000. Of that, going through our review process with our property appraiser, each property is being assessed $11,000 for a total assessment amount of $143,000. So each of these parcels, like I said, is getting an $11,000 assessment. That assessment period would be over 15 years. And like Ms. Kinsvater had said, the current interest rate is 2% over that bond rate, or 5.72%. And this would be payable on the 2024 taxes. So as you can see on there, it's a long ongoing project that the county, working with the county to get the South Shore Boulevard project completed. We're at that last milestone at the bottom for the assessment hearing. So similar to what you just had heard, per statute 429 for the consideration of assessment roll for South Shore Boulevard sewer extension project, we need to have a public hearing. So official notice was published in the newspapers, as well as notices sent to benefiting properties. This was a little bit unique, where we allowed some extra time for property owners to consider delaying that assessment until hookup. As of that deadline at the end of September, we did not receive anybody or any properties that wanted to do that. We actually, to date, have, of those 13 parcels, we already have 5 of them connected. One is ready to connect. He has to do some additional interior plumbing. We actually have 2 properties that don't currently have structure, so once a structure is built, they would have it. So that leaves us with 5 yet to be connected. So pretty good initial run at getting folks connected. We'll continue to work as septic systems were to fail, so we would require that they have inspections at minimum every 3 years. So that would be trigger to have them connected at any point their septics fail. So again, tonight, similar to the previous presentation, residents can appeal their assessment through written notice. As of right now, we have not received any. Not sure if anybody is here to speak tonight, but we have to date have not received any notice of appeal prior to this meeting. So the action that staff is recommending is council hold a public hearing for the 2022 South Shore Boulevard Sanitary Sewer Extension Project, and ultimately adopt the resolution approving the assessment roll for the project and certifying them for payable 2024 property taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Coppy. At this time, I will open it up to a public hearing, and note that I have no one on my sign-up sheet, but anyone who would like to speak to this issue is welcome to come forward now. Please. And if you could state your name and address for the record as you come to the podium, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Jane Kerpius. I represent South Shore Trinity Lutheran Church, which is technically in the township. However, we do own 2464 South Shore Boulevard, which is in the city. Mr. Coppy, when I spoke with you a few weeks ago, wondering why I got 2 letters and everything, I've all figured that out. What I would just like to ask Mr. Mayor and council members, has there been any decision to perhaps lower the interest rate, since the projection trend is to go down in the next, what I would consider short term, 2 to 3 years? Or is there any other thing that has been decided upon since receiving the second letter as well, about decreasing the $11,000 for people who have no structures?
Can you speak to the interest rate and where we arrived at the $11,000 assessment?
I'll start with the $11,000 assessment, and then Ms. Kinsvater might, as long as she's here this evening, we can talk a little bit about the interest rate. As far as the $11,000 assessment, what we did was, as we evaluated the total project cost, you can see that not 100% of those costs were actually assessed. We evaluated that with an independent property appraiser, looking at what that cost and benefit, or the cost of the project and what that benefit would be against those properties. Per Chapter 429, our assessment chapter within statutes requires that we only assess what that property benefits. We typically will drop it a little bit just to make sure that we're well under that amount. That property appraiser felt that providing sanitary sewer service to parcels that do not, the $11,000 falls well within that benefit for those properties. Like I said, we've already had 5 properties hook up, a 6th one ready to go. And even some of the ones that, the 5 that have not connected yet, we've had discussions with some of those property owners that, have relatively new septic systems. Otherwise, they are going to make that change when they can. So those property owners feel that benefit is there, and as well as our appraiser. As far as the interest rate, I don't know if Ms. Kinsvater wants to comment any of that. As far as I'm not the financial expert on the market and trends and things like that. So,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have a consistent policy of how we've set the interest rates that we've done on our assessments. We make sure that the property owners or the utility bill customers are paying the same interest rate where we are. The added 2% covers the extra work that we do by submitting the certification process and then maintaining those special assessment spreadsheets through the year. We have extra tracking that we have to do with our audit and things like that. So that's what that extra 2% is.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Coppy, Ms. Kinsvater, thank you very much for your forthright information. Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Council, we have questions for Mr. Coppy, or I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Coppy, just a technical question. The septics, the wells, the septics are still there. So we pump it one last time and then cap it? I mean, what's the process? You talked about seepage into White Bear Lake. I mean, what's the sort of close-up process for that?
Yep. Councilmember Walsh, Mayor, members of the council. As far as that abandonment process, that is overseen by Ramsey County. They oversee the on-site septic system program within Ramsey County. So what the property owners would do is they would hire a contractor that would come in, typically break out the top of the septic tank, pump it out one last time, fill it with sand, take out any remaining structures that are easily taken out, but typically abandoned in place. And then the system then is pretty much sealed, and I'll call it continuation of water to go through it, stops that leaching of contaminants into the lake.
And so so I'm 100% clear that we're assessing the $11,000, but people don't have to sign up. They don't have to hook up right away. There's an additional cost to hook up for them as a homeowner. So I could run my septic for a few more years until it fails, and then I got to come on. That's sort of voluntary still?
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct. So our code states that once sanitary sewer is available to a property, we would no longer allow issuance of say their septic system failed, they would not be able to come in for a permit to rehabilitate or repair that septic system. They would need to connect to our municipal sewer system.
Thanks.
Councilmember Edberg.
Mr. Mayor, 2 questions, Mr. Coppy. So in the original part of your presentation, the total costs of the project are in excess of what we are assessing or proposing to assess. What funds are paying for the difference? I think it's about, I don't know, 10, 20,000, something like that. Where's that coming from? I get that we under statute, we can only assess for the estimated value for a property. So that's where we get the 11,000, but how do we make the math work?
Councilmember Edberg, Mayor, members of the council. The additional approximately $30,000 funded through city funds, the sanitary sewer fund. Some of it was replacement of existing manholes to be able to make the connection. And again, that delta between the ability to, what that benefit or what that appraiser felt that benefit would be for that property so that we didn't exceed it. So the additional funds were paid for through city funding, through the sanitary sewer fund.
Okay. So what's the rationale of assessing? I get that a property that has a structure that is going to use the system, they're going to use it, they should pay. I don't have an issue with that. What's the rationale between, so the parking lot in question has been a parking lot for as long as I can remember. What's the rationale for assessing unused properties?
Councilmember Edberg, Mayor, members of the council. As far as the, I'll call it the properties that do not have a structure or ones that are currently on septic, it's that ability to connect so that, say the parcels in question next to the church. It is actually it's not part of the parking lot, it's actually an open lot. The house was torn down, they still have a garage structure on it. Theoretically, the church could sell that. Somebody could come in and build a home on it. They would be required to connect to that sanitary sewer system. So that system in place provides that benefit for that future parcel. For example, somebody comes in and develops a property, and they install water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer. They're providing that instant connection, that benefit for that property. If it wasn't there, that property would have to come in and install that themselves in order to connect to that system. So it's kind of in place, ready to go for them once they actually build.
I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution passes. Thank you. Item 7, we have nothing scheduled. Item 8A, a resolution approving edible cannabinoid products license for multiple eligible businesses. Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. During the 2023 legislative session, the Minnesota legislature enacted a comprehensive legislation relating to cannabis, including the establishment of the Office of Cannabis Management, providing for the licensing, inspection, and regulation of cannabis businesses and hemp products, taxing the sale of cannabis flower, cannabis products, and certain hemp products, and providing for the temporary regulation of certain edible cannabinoid products. So once the Office of Cannabis Management is established, which is approximately going to be January 2025, they will become the regulatory authority for the licensing of cannabis businesses and the sale of cannabinoid products, including the lower potency hemp products or the edibles. So since there would be no regulatory authority overseeing the sale of those products until 2025, the City Council did pass an ordinance on August 22nd of this year requiring a license and imposing regulations on the retail sale of edibles until the products are licensed through the Office of Cannabis Management. 7 eligible establishments have applied for the edible cannabinoid product license, and those establishments are Sellers Wine and Spirits, Cub Wine and Spirits, Elevated Beer Wine and Spirits, Lunds and Byerly's Wine and Spirits, M&J Tobacco, Nothing But Hemp, and Summit Liquor. So consistent with our other business licenses, these licenses, if they are approved, they will end March 31, 2024, at which time then they would reapply for renewal. The police department did conduct a background investigation for each of those applications and found nothing to preclude the issuance of the licenses. It should be noted, however, M&J Tobacco and Nothing But Hemp were cited for failed compliance checks in November 2022 relating to the sale of edibles. Prior to the adoption of this edible cannabinoid products license and during the city's moratorium regarding the sale of low-potency hemp products. So we do recommend that you issue licenses to those 7 establishments. And with that, staff can stand for questions.
Ms. Crawford, council, questions, comments, what we would like to do? Councilmember Walsh.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, just to pick up on that last comment, we spent some time here, November 2022, with 2 of these companies because they failed compliance checks. I guess I thought at the time that those failed compliance checks would sort of be on their permanent record, but really, somebody just explain, we really don't have the ability to, the staff is recommending going ahead with the licenses for those 2, even though they failed compliance checks a year ago. Just help me understand that. I guess what's the reason we're allowing that to go through even though they failed compliance checks?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. So as you recall, I did attempt to address this in the ordinance that you eventually adopted, though it doesn't trigger those past non-compliance issues. If there was a conviction that came out of that, then yes, the ordinance specifically provides for if the applicant was convicted within the last 5 years of violating any federal, state, or local laws related to edible cannabinoid products or the operation of the eligible business, that would be a basis on which to deny. Now, going forward, if there's a violation and you take action as a council against the license, then that would potentially make them ineligible to obtain a license moving forward. And that's not just on the sale of edible cannabinoids. It's if they're a tobacco business and they violate tobacco, it could affect this license as well. So that's the piece that was added to this to try to get to that issue that council has kind of wrestled with on and off over the last year and a half or so.
Well, thank you for that. So it's really just, we've talked about this wild, wild west. We were in the wild, wild west a year ago. We didn't have this ordinance or unordinance available. We didn't have this licensing protocol in place. So I'm glad we do now. And I thank you, I guess, to the staff, because we spent a lot of time on licensing these products over the last year now. So, yeah, so I guess I'm satisfied with that answer, and I'm happy the way things are set up going forward. So I'm happy to move approval of the resolution.
Very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, resolution passes, and the licenses are approved. Thank you. All right, item 8B, the execution of a partial settlement agreement related to water levels in White Bear Lake. And before I throw this to our city attorney, I will remind the council, and I'm sure Mr. Gilchrist will echo this, this is not a global settlement, meaning this is still active litigation. So what we say at this council is critical because, again, the litigation is still ongoing and there's still at least one claim on this case that is still yet to be tried. So with that primer, I'll throw things to Mr. Gilchrist.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. Yeah, just a high-level overview here. As you all are quite aware, the lake level litigation ran its course, and as a result of that, the district court ordered that certain conditions be added to the water appropriations permits, not only for the city of White Bear Lake, but for other cities in the area. As part of that process, under the rules, the city has an opportunity to challenge that new conditions added to its permit. And so really all of the cities agreed independently, but it just so happens that they all elected to challenge that. So all of the cities engaged then in a process of working through this contested case process through the administrative law judge to look at the 4 conditions that the district court ordered be added to the all of those water appropriations permits. Through that process, there were mediations that happened, at least a couple of them, very long, try to work out an attempt to resolve the language of those 4 conditions in a way that satisfied the parties involved. There was language that came close on 3 of them, and now litigation has actually started. The trial portion of litigation has started. To the mayor's point, city staff are actually scheduled to testify in the near future on this. So this is still very much active litigation, so I would encourage everyone not to get too much into the details. But the point, what staff is asking the council to consider this evening is on 3 of the conditions, excluding the residential irrigation ban, but dealing with the revised water supply plan condition, the condition related to having to submit a plan to the DNR related to managing the per capita use of water, and then finally on creating an annual report and submitting that to the DNR. Those 3 of the 4 conditions, the language that we're frankly fairly close to before, did gel just recently with the associations agreeing, DNR agreeing, and so now it's before you as a council to consider approving that. So at least 3 of those 4 issues can be resolved and do not need to continue in litigation. So then the litigation becomes focused on the irrigation ban. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Do we have any questions for our city attorney? Or I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing execution of a partial settlement agreement and related documents. Councilmember Ed Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this one's on me. I did not see the memo in our packet. I did not, if we had been advised that there was such an action coming, I missed that in any pre-meeting information. When you asked for the consent agenda, I saw a memo taking up a resolution that I didn't think I had seen before, so I asked that it be pulled from the consent agenda. So that's on me, but I have no issues with the city attorney's exposition of what we're agreeing to. I'll move approval.
Very good. Do I have a second? Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution is approved. All right, item 9A, 25-mile-an-hour speed limit for certain residential roadways. I believe, Mr. Coppy, you're taking this?
I will take this. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. To kick it off, if hopefully most of you recall, we had recently, over the last several years, Ms. Shimmick did a very nice job running an AV pilot project. That was originally a whole consortium of different groups, and U of M, MnDOT, Chamber of Commerce originally started it. So the city of White Bear Lake jumped in, and one of those requirements in order to run that pilot project was to reduce the speed limit along the route to 25 miles an hour to meet certain safety requirements for that project. So kind of in I shouldn't say hindsight. We, as part of that process, we needed to do a speed study of those roadways to do that lowering to 25 miles an hour. And many of you might know that cities were given, and I'm going to mess up the date, about 4 or 5 years ago, cities were given the ability to lower speed limits to 25 miles an hour. In certain cases, as they see fit, you can go lower to 20 miles an hour if you do a full engineering study and a very in-depth process to get to that point. So we were able to use that ability to lower it to 25 miles an hour. But what engineering staff did was we actually did those speed counts the roadway in early 2021, before the roadway was re-signed to 25 miles an hour. I included those kind of the statistics within the council memo. I showed you both three different kind of points, the 50th percentile speed, the 85th percentile speed, and the average speed. Everyone looks at speed a little bit differently. From an engineering standard, we really look at the 85th percentile speed, meaning that 85% of the people are at or below that given speed. 15% of the folks, based on years and years of engineering data and studies, show that there's 15% of the public that are just going to drive over whatever speed limit you post. Ideally, that 85th percentile would be very close to the posted speed limit. You can see in 2021, while it was signed 30 miles an hour, we saw for Willow, Linden, we saw an 85th percentile speed at 35 miles an hour. For Orchard Lane, 40 miles an hour. So quite a bit above that 30 mile an hour speed limit. A number of communities around us over the last 4 or 5 years have re-signed residential roadways to 25 miles an hour. St. Paul, Minneapolis really led the charge with that, where they redid their entire communities. And adjacent to us, I know Matamidi has done the same thing. Rochester has done it in a number of their districts, as well as a whole host of other communities. I won't list them all. Myself and some engineering staff even have been tracking this. Earlier this year, I sat we have a kind of a quarterly Ramsey County City County Engineers meeting. City of St. Paul presented and saw very little, if any, change in their speed limits, posting from 30 miles an hour down to 25 miles an hour. It was 0.1, 0.2 miles an hour, kind of indecipherable. We recently did sat in on a webinar for our City Engineers Association earlier in October. Again, listening to a presentation, and those communities that did a similar mini study that we just did here saw no drop in speed limits, posting from 30 to 25 miles per hour. So taking kind of looking at the right hand of that table that I provided in the memo, you see the 2023 table, and this is, well, it was signed 25 miles an hour. So we did this, it's still signed 25 miles per hour today, but if you look, it really mimics what, again, we're talking a fraction of a mile per hour, very closely mimicking when it was signed 30 miles an hour. So people aren't looking at signs, they're driving what they feel comfortable driving on the roadway. And even if you look at Orchard, speed limits went up. People are in more of a hurry along that roadway. I don't know. But it was reiterated in the recent webinar that roadway design is really what affects, road width. It's the curvature of roads. It's, hills and valleys. It's trees. It's all that kind of stuff that make people, want to look at the scenery, want to look at, say Lake Avenue, for example. Probably, if we did speed studies on Lake Avenue, very low. People want to look at the scenery. It's tighter. It's people walking by. We don't have that along a lot of our roadways. We were developed, White Bear Lake was developed prior to, if you were to have a blank slate and go in and design roadways, you'd have narrow roadways, you'd have trees along them, you'd have all these elements that would help make people drive slower. So I guess just in summary, from what we're seeing, what other communities are seeing is it's merely signing something 5 miles an hour lower is not making a difference. Based on that, staff would recommend that taking a step back, the previous council action allowed at the end of 2023 the 25 mile an hour speed limit to expire, and it would revert back to the original 30 miles per hour. And that's what tonight's staff is recommending based on our study and other studies that communities have done in similar reduction of speed. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
If I can just add to that, so we're not looking for any action tonight. We'd want to have a discussion with the city council, present this information, and if you wish to have it expire sooner, or if you would like us to do further studies, or post it 25 miles per hour, that's the feedback that we are looking for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey and Ms. Crawford. So here's what I think. The 25 mile an hour speed limit sounds really good on paper, but the facts in the study show that it means absolutely nothing. And so that alone to me says, let's just let the speed limit of 25 miles an hour lapse and then revert back to 30 and move on with life. It also is worth noting that if we were to move in that direction, there's a cost that goes with redoing all these signs and having Public Works put them out. So if it's not actually going to do anything in the name of public safety, then to me this is kind of a no-brainer. It was an experiment worth conducting. We've got good data. The data says let's just leave well enough alone. So my recommendation would be let's leave well enough alone. So council, what are our thoughts on that? Councilmember Jones.
So completely agree, got the stats. What changing from the 30 to 25, I'm just waiting, what we haven't seen, and I'm not asking for it because I don't think it's necessary. Where's the tickets? Where's the accidents? Where's all the incidents reports that is saying everything needs to, we've survived, I don't know, my street's been around for 90 years. I don't see it, but the true question, as well as the police enforcement adding to that cost, is probably the ongoing cost that never ends. So yeah, people speed. I've had too many requests come in for speed enforcements in neighborhoods, and guess who speeds on the streets? Wow, shocker, 80% of the people that live on them. And that's what I want to say to people to hear it. And just sidebar, yeah, we should change all of our stop signs to say stoptional, because wow, we are horrific in our community with stop signs. It just seriously stoptional or yield signs. I don't even know why we have them. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not really advocating for that for anybody that doesn't get my humor.
Understood. Councilmember Edberg.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with your sentiments. I think we should allow it to expire. It does cause me to think, so one of the primary public health safety complaints that I receive is around speed. And it's speed in the neighborhoods, and it's too high. Mr. Coffey, I know that you have been in regular correspondence with a couple of my constituents who have a particular view on the speed on their roadway, and I'm sympathetic to that. I don't know what we do, and so that my question is, are there other strategies that we can pursue that might either force compliance, or do we just say, we're not going to do anything, go and do what you're going to do? I'm not comfortable with that, actually, but the middle ground doesn't seem to be working. Do we have any wisdom on what we do with folks who routinely drive 10 to 15 miles over the speed limit in a residential area? So in my mind, that's where the conversation needs to go, not in terms of whether we retain a speed limit or not.
Members of the council, and I think the mayor kind of alluded to it. It is, people are driving that speed. The two things that can obviously affect how fast people drive are, like I had mentioned earlier, is what that roadway looks like. And obviously we can't blow up 85 miles of our roadways and start over. We are where we are. We obviously, as we do roadway projects, we look at what that even since I've been here, some of the street reconstruct projects, we would go and say, we're going to replace this thing with a 32-foot wide road. We've actually backed that off a little bit. We've narrowed it down, still do allow the functionality of parking, access to properties, but you don't need it as wide as people think you do. And that actually slows people down. You might have a car parked here and there, people have to slow, kind of weave in. As we, even get on with hopefully some of our reforestation programs, we can start planting more boulevard trees, these canopies grow. People, when they feel confined, people slow down. So as we move forward with different opportunities, we can definitely change some of it. Like I said, we can narrow roadways up. We can change the look and feel of them. The other side of it, and I'm not the appropriate person maybe to talk about it, enforcement is obviously the other arm of it, which Councilmember Jones stated. I mean, it costs money to, and we've all listened to our public safety's, reports and things like that, that there's, not that they're not out enforcing traffic, but they get pulled and called to anything from false alarm calls to you name it as we listen to their reports. So those are the two kind of things that we see from an engineering community is design and enforcement are the two arms of getting people to comply with speed limits.
Councilmember Jones.
Okay, I got to take thank you, Mr. Coffey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I mean, part of what we heard from our police chief, and this has been going around in my head since he put some rather raw stats, rather cold stats about where we are at with our police officers. And every time I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, we're supposed to have 31 sworn officers. And we're never full, never. Somebody's hurt, somebody's on vacation, and we're talking not 1, 2, 3, we're talking 5 right now at least, I think. And Mr. Edberg, we've been together long, well, we all have. How many times have you heard, we're full force?
Never.
Never. We're never full force. So when we are asked to even go beyond, 30 to 25, I don't know if we, people are talking about speed. Mr. Edberg asked the question about, is there something we can do? Mr. Coffey, and that's what triggered, and I'm not blaming you, I'm saying, okay, what's more important? Patrol Dennis and Dorothy intersection or be somewhere else? And if we're down 3, 4, 5 officers, guess what's not going to happen? So, I mean, that's kind of just posing an open question. There's nothing we can do about it today, but it's putting the two together going, enforcement's a component. I also like the idea, okay, I've got a neighbor that wasn't happy with the city. Something about his vehicle in a driveway and you got to do something. So he did what he needed to do and he parks it on the street. It's the best traffic calming device ever. And I just want to say thank you for parking on the street because it slows down the cars. And so those devices do work. And when we are doing trees or something, maybe some areas can be looked at to do something different. That's more than the cost of the tree. And I know funds are tight, so I get it, but it might be an opportunity to do something in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Hughes.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know, Mr. Coffey, a couple people in my neighborhood have looked for further stop signs. I don't know if that slows down traffic at all. Also, I'm not advocating for it, but I'm just wondering about speed bumps in some street that somebody wants it. I know, nobody wants one. I'm just asking if we're really trying to get people to go 0 miles an hour and not use an officer, there you go. It's just really, just take out your car.
Mayor, members of the council, another call that I get quite frequently, just like you all get with speeds and stop sign concerns, and again, people tend to hate our answers all the time, but the interesting thing in so us city engineers, our traffic manual that we follow is this manual of uniform traffic control devices. So we follow that to guide us in how we place signs, striping on roadways, things like that. So it's uniform, predictable, no matter if you drive in Minnesota or Texas or wherever. I mean, it is generally followed across the board. Do people make changes, whatnot? Yes, and those are areas that as you travel, you find confusing to drive in. As far as stop signs go, the first sentence of that, the mute CD, as we call it, is stop signs shall not be used for speed control. There's been enough engineering studies, whatnot, that show that, and Councilmember Jones alluded to that people just, if they go through this quiet neighborhood 99% of the time and they never see another car approach, they roll those stop signs and actually become less safe because maybe the person on the other roadway say, there's a stop sign, I can just go through it and not have to look. And the guy rolling it, now all of a sudden there's a collision. So if you look at, there's actually fewer, in a lot of areas, there's actually fewer collisions on intersections with no stop control because everybody's kind of inching out, kind of looking. So from a stop sign standpoint, not really effective for speed control. The other thing that people tend to do is, if you're going to make me stop, I'm going to speed up once I get through that intersection to make up time that I lost. So actually increase speeds on the other side of the stop sign. So that's my 2 cents on the stop sign component. The other component you asked about was speed bumps. The problem with them in the state of Minnesota is we have to plow snow. So to permanently put those in, like we have issues finding folks to be our police officers, I would have trouble finding people to be plow truck drivers because they would end up through the windshield all the time hitting them. So it is, and I would invite anybody, if you want to go on a snow plow ride along, you hit even the smallest bump on the street, it's very noticeable in those big trucks that those guys drive. So not a safe condition. There's really not a practical approach to, they do it in parking lots, much smaller equipment, skid steers, things like that they're plowing with. So more predictable. It might be one speed bump in front of a Target store. Very predictable where it's at. They, and half the time, it's, they use so much salt that they don't even plow. So different conditions than our roadways are. So not really a practical approach in our climate. They are used in other climates at times where they're not plowing and things. So, but in Minnesota, unfortunately, not really in our arsenal of devices that we would use.
So it sounds like the consensus is let's just let things revert back. Any final thoughts on this? Councilmember
Mr.
Walsh.
Ray, just a quick question. Divert back. So if we do nothing, it diverts back, and I would go tomorrow if I had my way, but that causes work and a resolution and all that. So that's fine. We can wait, but I'd do it tomorrow if it was easy.
Yeah, to me, I'm with you. I'm with Councilmember Walsh. I just assumed that it was logistically simpler to just let it sunset and move on. Yep. Is that a true statement? Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. So do we have the feedback we need?
I think so. Thank you. That was a good discussion. Thank you.
Very good. All right, item 10, communication from the city manager.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We have a few upcoming events that I want to share with the group. So as a reminder to City Council and the Mayor, we have our Boards and Commissions Recognition Banquet Wednesday, November 1st at 6 p.m. at Boatworks. I know some of you have already responded, but please let us know if you're not available. Otherwise, we will plan on having you be there. There's a proposed 2024 pavement rehabilitation project information meeting. That's a neighborhood meeting on Wednesday, November 8th at 6:30 p.m. here. So notices have been mailed out, but wanted just to share that here publicly. Next slide, please. And there is another open house for Washington County Century North Reconstruction Project. So this open house is Thursday, November 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. That's at the Wildwood Public Library in Matamidi. So this is a reconstruction project led by Washington County of Century Avenue or 120. So there's, I think, good information online about that, or, okay, so. And then just in addition, I've sent a couple of emails to the council last week. If you can just remember to respond to me on those regarding strategic planning, and then if there's any questions on surface water, I'm looking for some feedback by this Friday. So that is all that I have for tonight, so thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Crawford? Before we adjourn, I see 3 students in the audience. I assume you're from Mr. Malum's American Government class? 4? 4 of them?
No,
okay.
There's more than one teacher teaching that class.
Yeah. What was the teacher? Ms. Garbage, okay, very good. Well, I'll give you the same spiel that I gave the last group from a couple weeks ago. I sat where you are 20 years ago doing the same assignment, and I still remember that council meeting. So it's one, we're happy to have you here, and we hope that you learn a thing or two about it, and that this activity keeps you engaged in local government long after you've gone on to graduate from high school. And I can tell based on the fidgeting in the chair that you're ready to get up, that you are following the agenda. We are almost done. There's only one other item of business, and that's to adjourn. But thank you for participating and being here tonight. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. You had it right.
Yes. Get me down.
As far as I'm concerned, there's only one. Well, you keep saying that, but it's more than. Yeah, I know. Malum teaches it still too, but the other guys, there's another teacher. We're staying here? Oh, good.